In this video, I'm going to discuss the weighted total grade. So this is an example of some grades that were provided from a student. So let's say that the student's class graded them on labs, a quiz, a test, a project. And when you look at the scores here, you can see that the student got all 10 out of 10 for their labs, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 on the quizzes. And then the tests, 32 out of 50, 21 out of 42, 31 out of 50, and the project, 100%. If we look at total points, you would add all of these points together, and you would get 242 points. If we look at the total points overall, you would get 302 points. So if the student earned 242 points out of 302 points total, to calculate their total grade based on total points, all you would do is take 242 and you would divide that by 302, and then you can multiply that by 100%. The total percentage based on total points would be an 80.1% B. And the student thinks that they're passing the course, which is great. However, sometimes instructors grade based on weighted totals. What a weighted total means is that they want an exam point or a test point worth more than an assignment point, or they want something in the course to have more value percentage-wise than something else in the course. And usually it is the test. They want to weigh more heavily on the tests as opposed to the assignments that help build up to the knowledge you should be able to reproduce on a test. So a weighted total means that if you look at your grade scale in your syllabus, the instructor would list out percentages of the categories of what each item is worth. So if we were to look at a weighted total example and use these same exact scores, the labs in a weighted total scenario could be worth 10%. The quizzes could also be worth 10%. The test could be worth 70%. And the project could be worth another 10%. So if you add up all the percentages, that's how you get your 100% for the course. So now how do we calculate by hand a weighted total? And this is what a lot of students tend to ask about because they don't know how to do the math behind it. They have to just trust that Blackboard is automatically calculating the correct grade for them. So this is how you actually go ahead and calculate your own weighted total grade. So let's say your labs, you've got all 100% here. So we need to assign the labs 10%. So when we actually write out the equation here, we have to account for labs, quizzes, tests, and project. Now we're going to convert these percentages into a decimal. You just move the decimal over 2 places, so the labs become 0.1, and then we're going to multiply that by our average for all of our labs. We're going to do the same thing for the quizzes, 0.1, and we're going to multiply that by the averages for all of our quizzes. We're going to add that times 0.7, and we're going to average our test scores, and then we're going to add that to the project, which is worth 10%, and get our average score for our project. So now we have to figure out the averages. In order to calculate averages, we have to convert all of these to percentages. So when we look at this first set of scores, the first lab is 10 out of 10, which will give you 100%. The second lab is the same thing, and the third lab is the same thing. So since all of these are the exact same thing, our average score for our labs is 100%. So we can go ahead and put in the average score. So I'm doing the percent of the category here and the average score for that category here. Now let's take a look at our quizzes. Our quizzes, we have a 9 out of 10, which is a 90%. We have a 10 out of 10, which is 100%. Then we have a 9 out of 10, which is a 90%. Now we want to get the average, and in order to get the average, we have to add all of these together and divide by the number of items that we've added together. So we have to do 90 plus 100 plus 90, and that gives us 280. Now we divide by the number that we just added together. So we added 1, 2, 3 items together. We divide by 3. And then we have to convert that into a percentage. So, or that already is in a percent when you do the division. So we end up with 93.3%. So we can put in 93.3 here. Now we have to figure out the tests. So for the tests, we have 32 out of 50. And that will give us 64%. Again, we're converting this into a percentage, so we just multiply by 100%. 21 divided by 42 equals 50%. And 31 out of 50 gives us 62%. We add all of these three together. And that gives us 176. And we divide by 3 because we added 3 numbers together and we're trying to get the average. So our average percentage for our test category is 58.7%. Our project, we only had one project and it was 100%. So we can just put in the 100% right away. So now when we do the math here, the 0.1 times the 100 gives us 10, plus the 0.1 times 93.3 gives us 9.33, plus the 0.7 times the 58.7 gives us 41.09, plus the 0.1 times the 100 gives us 10. When we add all of these up together, we get 70.42%, which is a D. So you can see how we're no longer passing the course. With total points, we had an 80.1% B, but with our weighted total, we have 70.42% D. Now, why do instructors do this? Well, it's very easy to get 100% on labs, especially if you're working in groups. You get to talk about them. These are designed to kind of form your knowledge on the subject. So you get lots of practice, lots of opportunities to do really well on the labs. But in the end, we want to see, did you really retain any of the knowledge that you gained by doing the labs or the quizzes or the project? Did those contribute to your learning of the content area? And that's why a lot of instructors like to weigh tests a little bit heavier, because the test is kind of the final assessment. We get to see, did you actually learn something from all of this practice that we gave you throughout the course? So we stick with the weighted percentage. And this may not seem fair, but this is how we can more accurately assess whether you've actually learned something in the course. Now, this is a very dramatic example. Most students, total grade, total points calculation, and weighted grade are not this far off, but I wanted to give you an extreme example to see how far off they could be. So hopefully this makes a little bit more sense. I get a lot of questions at the end of the semester. What grade do I have to get on the final exam in order to pass this class? Well, you can input a test, like let's say the final exam was included in this test category. You can input that and incorporate a random grade. Like let's say, do I need an 80% in order to get a passing grade in the course? You can try to put in an 80%, calculate a new average, put that average in here, and see what letter grade you end up getting. By putting in a different type of average in here, it will allow you to estimate what grade you would need on your final. And you're able to then kind of recalculate everything and figure out what you need in order to get that passing grade. Hopefully this helps explain the weighted total a little bit better. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to your instructor.